the man, Manny Pacquiao. Can't take too long, but we will do a part two. Don't worry. Now, Manny Pacquiao is one of the greatest fighters to ever grace a pair of gloves. Okay, came from a rich era of great fighters. You know, started his career in 1995. His career is still continuing to this day, 2021. He should be rightfully the WBA super champion right at this point in time. However, the WBA for some reason has stripped him. Boxing politics. Think of so many people who should be world champions right now. You think the cause Valdemir should have been undisputed. Boxing politics, sanctioning fees. Manny Pacquiao should be, this should be a unification bout for three of the four belts. Politics. But he is the oldest welterweight world champion amongst the many, many different accolades that he so has. And one of the accolades he does not have is being a unified world champion. And so he's going after that, as other records, such as the oldest welterweight world champion, to break his own record and become two-time uh, post 40 welterweight world champion. Manny Pacquiao started his career at strawweight, which is the lowest weight class you can ever probably start your career at. And I think he was 16 years of age or something like that when he started fighting. And the amazing thing about this, and the amazing thing about Pacquiao, and to break down this fighter, it takes a bit. But one of the amazing things about him is that he started strawweight and worked his way all the way up and fought at a catchweight at super welterweight. So let's put this in perspective. You got minimum weight, you got light flyweight, flyweight, super flyweight, and you got bantamweight. Watch how many weight classes he went through. Bantamweight, super bantamweight, featherweight, super featherweight, lightweight, super lightweight, welterweight, super welterweight. He went through 12 weight classes, ladies and gentlemen. 12. From the beginning of his career, that is, to the present time. Now, there are other fighters who have done this through history, but they didn't win world championships on their way up through all those weight classes. I can think of several different fighters who started at one weight class and then went all the way up. I think of fighters who started at lightweight and they went all the way up to heavyweight. There are fighters who have started at flyweight and were, at flyweight, became flyweight champions and worked their way all the way up to welterweight. There are fighters who started at lightweight and they went all the way up to super middleweight. Okay, so this has happened before. Fighters have gone through multiple weight classes. However, let me just say that it's still unique for those are very special fighters who go through multiple weight classes, particularly more than three. So a fighter who goes through more than three weight classes is a special fighter, no doubt about it. And they separate themselves from all the fighters of their eras. Okay. Now, of course, we have more weight classes today, or they say that at least. And I think the WC is not helping the situation by adding some extra, I think it was Bridger weight class or whatever it is. They're not helping the situation. I don't know why they would do something stupid like that, but they do. And we have too many belts, obviously. Now, I'm not against different sanctioning bodies having belts, particularly the four main sanctioning bodies having belts. But why do you have more than one belt per sanctioning body per division? Is beyond me. I think it's stupid. So the WBA, for example, I don't know why they have super champion and they have regular champion. I do not see a regular champion as the real champion. I see the super champion as the real champion. And the problem with this is that by having so many different belts in divisions, they actually open the door to basically weakening what a champion is. Okay, champion's supposed to be the best in your division. That's why they're champion. It's supposed to be the top of the division. And having all of these interim titles and all of these other bullshit titles, I think it's just baloney. I think it's crap, and I think it should be halted. And I think we all universally agree. You want to have four sanctioning bodies and four different belts, fine, per division. Okay. It also there's another thing. It's boxing politics is making it very difficult to become undisputed these days. Even though a lot of fighters are fighting and they're trying to get undisputed, boxing politics comes in the way of that, and these different sanctioning bodies seem to want to work that's making it extremely difficult for a fighter not to get all four belts. Whether it's promoters or whoever, they're making it difficult. So to become undisputed today is very, very difficult. And besides the fact that you have more belts to become, you have to get together to become undisputed, is the other point that you have this all this rubbish boxing politics to get involved in. So in the eras of the four belt era, particularly, it's been extremely difficult to become undisputed. You have to get past politics, and somehow you get people, organizations, that are willing to allow their champions to face you, or the people themselves, the champions themselves, being willing to face you to become undisputed. And you would think that would be the goal, the best to face the best and all of that, but that's not the case. All right, so let's get into Manny Pacquiao. So a lot of people like to throw, oh, Pacquiao's never been undisputed. Pacquiao's never been a unified champion, but he's faced everybody. You can't say that Pacquiao didn't face everybody. So I always try to explain to people what's more important, the belt or the person. Okay, you can get a belt without even facing anybody. You can get a belt and a vacant belt and not face the champion. Okay, so I think what's more important is who you face and who you beat. Damn belts. I've said this. I've been very consistent over the years. People have tried to misquote me as if to say belts don't have any value or anything like that. I never said that. I just said facing a person who is a reputable person in boxing is much more important, and a very good boxer is much more important than facing a belt. So, in that respect. Now, going to the point that I had to make, Pacquiao faced who's who in boxing. Okay, he faced Chachai Shashaku, who was the lineal champion at the time. Just had beaten the Russian champion to become champion. Pacquiao smoked him. Okay, and that's how he became light flyweight champion. He also became world champion in his debut in the United States of America, beating Leo de Duaba to become IBF champion at super bantamweight. And Leo de Duaba was a good fighter. Nobody expected it. It was an upset, a tremendous upset. And he really just kind of pile drive. He just really blew through Leo de Duaba like a hurricane. And then the other biggest thing he did was when he moved up to featherweight. But before he moved up to featherweight, he also faced another fighter who was a very good fighter. Got a draw with him, but really, that fight was pretty dirty. It was Dominican. I can't remember his name right now. That's a fighter who faced almost everybody as well, and that must be noted. He faced that dude. It was for unification, super bantamweight. Then he moved up to featherweight and faced Marco Antonio Barrera, who was the man at super featherweight. I'm sorry, at featherweight. And he beat him. And I mean, he beat him. Beat him up. And after that, he faced Juan Manuel Marquez, who was unified champion at the time. Dropped him 3 times in the first round. And then Marquez fought back and fought to a draw. And that, again, was incredibly, I mean, nobody disputes Marquez and how good he was as a boxer, right? After that, Pacquiao went on to face Eric Morales. No, wait. Yes, he went on to face Eric Morales at, I believe it was still featherweight, or was it super featherweight? It could have been super featherweight. I think it was super featherweight. because I think Eric Morales had just come off of losing a fight to Zahir Rahim at lightweight and went back down to super featherweight to face Manny Pacquiao. Eric Morales beat Manny Pacquiao that first fight. But again, I really couldn't give a damn. He faced Eric Morales, the Eric Morales. Get me right? So I want you guys to understand what I'm saying. The dude was consistently fighting guys, the guys, right? Yeah, okay. Zahir Rahim should have faced Manny Pacquiao. We all agree with that. But Eric Morales was the name. Nobody knew who Zahir Rahim was as much as Eric Morales. Now, he did make his name off of beating Eric Morales. But the thing about it is, even though Pacquiao faced Eric Morales beat Manny Pacquiao, which is another very important point. Okay? He would go on to rematch Eric Morales, beat Eric Morales two more times. Beat Barrera, much more competitive fight, one more time. But the point is, Manny Pacquiao then goes on to face Marquez again. This time it's at super featherweight, and he beats Marquez. Okay, so he becomes lineal super featherweight champion. Then he moves up to lightweight, faces David Diaz, who was a world champion at that division. Wasn't the strongest world champion, but he was a good, credible guy. He came up with Floyd Mayweather and those guys. You know, he was on the same Olympic team as Floyd Mayweather and Company Limited. And David Diaz was a good fighter, good fighter. But he could not handle Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao was just moving in and out, all kinds of different angles. It would just overwhelm David Diaz, and he stopped David Diaz. Okay, good fighter, but he wasn't ready for Pacquiao. Period. You know, now some people criticize Manny Pacquiao for not facing Juan Diaz or Casamigor or what's this guy's name? He was jumping at the bit to face Pacquiao. What's his name? The Southpaw guy. Forgot his name. That's crazy. And he's be on podcasts on here. Uh, hmm. Anyway, yeah. But truth be told, he didn't stay at lightweight very long. He jumped up two-weight classes and faced Oscar De La Hoya. Excuse me. He faced Oscar De La Hoya, who, was fighting at super welterweight. Oscar De La Hoya said, "Oh, I'm gonna come down to welterweight. You come up two-weight classes to meet me." So Oscar De La Hoya faced Manny Pacquiao. He smoked Oscar De La Hoya. He really smoked him. Do I think he still had the skills and ability to beat Oscar De La Hoya, who was fully healthy and was moving around? Yes, I think he would have, maybe, but wouldn't have been as emphatic as it was because Oscar was weight trained at welterweight. Um, I don't know how he'd have done against Oscar if Oscar was at super welterweight. If he was fully fledged. Oh, let's just say Oscar was a welterweight. He fought Floyd at welterweight, let's say, or whatever. And he was a welterweight. He didn't have to bother about being weight trained. I don't think Pacquiao would have stopped him at all. But I think still might have gotten the win because Oscar might not have been able to turn enough to get him. So he would still get caught with shots. It just wouldn't have affected him like it affected him when he was weight trained. But it was a sensational win. And that's the Oscar De La Hoya. I don't think you guys understand. Oscar De La Hoya is a great fighter. Oscar never ducked or dodged nobody except for Winky Wright and Vernon Forrest. And that's about it. He never faced Corey Spinks either. I would have liked to see him face Corey Spinks, Vernon Forrest, Winky Wright. He did duck Winky Wright. But other than that, he didn't duck nobody else that I know of. But anyway, so, but did he really duck Winky Wright? I mean, Winky Wright wasn't a big name. Shane Mosley made Winky Wright a big name. You know what I mean? So I don't know if you could say he ducked Winky Wright, really. And you think about it, did he really duck Winky Wright? Not really. Like, Winky Wright wasn't even on his radar like that. But anyway, the point behind it is Oscar De La Hoya, all right, he faced everybody, right? And he smoked guys like Julio Cesar Chavez, known for beating Julio Cesar Chavez's ass twice. He beat Hector Camacho so bad, Hector Camacho was begging him not to, don't let me have to cut my Jerry curls. All right, put a beating on Fernando Vargas. Those of y'all don't know who Fernando Vargas is. got a disputable win over Pernell Whitaker, so that's like an asterisk on that one. Thought he beat Felix Trinidad, was whooping ass straight through for several years. Became the pound for pound number one fighter in the world for a brief moment in time. All right, he was whooping ass. Um, and then he went up to super welterweight and was whooping ass there. The only guy that beat him consistently, and I don't think he beat him at super welterweight, by the way, Shane Mosley. Shane Mosley came up from lightweight, actually, and beat Oscar De La Hoya. It was very impressive. Okay, and then he beat him again at super welterweight, but I thought he lost that fight. And then he was cheating when he lost that fight, which is crazy. He was using the clear at that time as well, and he still lost that fight, in my opinion. I think Oscar outboxed him beautifully. Should have gotten the W, but he didn't get it. Mosley looked like shit in that fight, and he still won it somehow. I don't know how. But Oscar, a hell of a fighter. Okay, went up to middleweight. Okay, Oscar's not a middleweight. Okay, went up to middleweight, and he faced Felix Sturm, who's, as we all know, we saw his career, long reigning middleweight champion, great middleweight champion, and he beat Felix Sturm. Now I don't think he beat Felix Sturm. I think they gave him the decision, but nonetheless he beat Felix Sturm. That set up the Hopkins fight in which he lost. Hopkins hit him with a body shot. The momentum, it started off kind of equal, and then the momentum was moving towards Hopkins' direction most of the fight. But Oscar was good in that fight still. And that was Oscar's sixth division. He's a sixth divisional world champion. Okay. So when we talk about Oscar De La Hoya, you got to put some respect on that thing. Oscar De La Hoya faced everybody, and we talking about everybody from super featherweight. He started his career at super featherweight. He beat a guy called Jimmy Bredell, I think it was. He beat him for the vacant title at super featherweight. Jumped right up to lightweight. Didn't spend very long at lightweight, but he beat some ass in lightweight, and then uh, super lightweight. And that's where he stayed a little bit, and faced all the legendary names there. He's got Oscar got a list of legendary names that he has beat, and some really really powerful names. So some of his disputable wins, but nonetheless, And the Golden Boy, man, I always matched the Golden Boy tough. He was always him and Pernell Whitaker. You look at them from the get go when they came out of the Olympics, they was getting matched hard. You know what I mean? Even though Oscar and Pernell Whitaker don't have a whole bunch of fights behind their name, they have only like 40-something fights. Even Sugar Ray Leonard doesn't have a whole bunch of fights behind his name. He only has 40-something fights as well. Um, and that's why when I hear these OGs talking about boxers, oh man, the boxers need to fight more regularly. I'm like, Sugar Ray Leonard didn't fight so regularly. He didn't fight that regularly. Hell of a fighter. Oscar De La Hoya didn't fight that regularly. Hell of a fighter. Pernell Whitaker didn't fight that regularly. Hell of a fighter. So what are you talking about? And the point behind it is, for a lot of these OGs out there talking about you need to fight so regular, these guys fought high quality fights. It was matched tough from the get go, and they had high quality fights from the get go. And that's what a lot of you OGs just don't get. Throwback fighters wasn't fighting high quality fights on a regular like that. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying. Let me get back to what I was talking about with Manny Pacquiao. So Manny Pacquiao, man, beats Oscar De La Hoya. That's a hell of a name. Hell of a name. He goes on after that. He goes down in weight. And in that same year, he faces Ricky Hatton. He beats Ricky Hatton's ass. That's right. He beats Ricky Hatton's ass. Ricky Hatton still was undefeated at super lightweight. He was the undefeated dude. A little shaky. He was a little shaky there. I'll be real. But nonetheless, he beat him. Now, there was a blueprint on how to beat him because the way how he got stopped is the same way how Floyd stopped him. Floyd caught him with a check hook. Manny Pacquiao caught him with an overhand left. Right? He was also open for the right hook at times. And that's what Pacquiao caught Ricky Hatton with. Ricky Hatton was trying to close the distance, press Manny Pacquiao up close. But Ricky Hatton did used to get hit on the chin and coming in sometimes. And Floyd took advantage of that and messed him up. And Pacquiao did the same thing. They knew the blueprint to knock out Ricky Hatton, and they got him. And he destroyed Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton was lineal champion, long reigning lineal champion at super lightweight. beat guys like Costa Zoo, Vince Phillips, who had beaten Costa Zoo. Beat guys like the kid who beat the kid from Guyana. I forgot what his name is. Um, and he beat guys like uh, legendary fighters. Guys who were legendary fighters at super lightweight. He beat their ass. Ricky Hatton was a bad boy, and he jumped up to welterweight actually, and he actually won a welterweight title against Louis Collazo, the slick southpaw with a lot of pop and power. And if you don't come correct, he's gonna stop you. He almost stopped Ricky Hatton actually in the fight around, but nonetheless. So that's the caliber of fighter. You look at Manny Pacquiao, that's Ricky Hatton you're talking about. That the man at 140, he stopped him in the third or fourth round, second, I can't remember which one. And then he goes back up to welterweight, and he faces Miguel Cotto. Listen to the names, man. He faces Miguel Cotto. Now Miguel Cotto was coming off an Antonio Margarito loss, devastating loss. He had a bounce back win against some dude for a vacant title, and then he faced what's the African guy's name, the Ghana African guy's name. He'll come to me because Pacquiao faced him as well. Joshua Clottey faced Joshua Clottey, dropped Joshua Clottey early, but then Clottey came back. Man, Clottey was whooping ass. Really, I thought Clottey won that fight. And again, Cotto, he's struggling in that fight, and we never really seen Cotto struggle except with the Antonio Margarito fight later on in the fight where Margarito was just busting up Cotto's face, because he was using cement in his hand wraps, um, and as the cement hardens, obviously that's what'll happen. But Miguel Cotto, man, was a bad boy. I mean, I see Miguel Cotto take some serious hellacious punches from Zab Super Judah, and Zab Super Judah don't hit soft. I mean, Jab Super Judah busted Miguel Cotto's mouth with punches. You know what I'm saying? Cotto did hit him a couple of low blows, and I think that swung the fight for some time in his favor. But nonetheless, Cotto walked through some of Zab Judah's. I mean, Zab Judah was hitting him some flush uppercuts, right? And Cotto was walking through that shit. He was walking through that shit. That's Miguel Cotto. So when I saw Miguel Cotto versus Joshua Clottey, it wasn't just walking through everything that Clottey was throwing. And Clottey's not known for a big puncher. He's a strong guy, but not known as a puncher. Clottey had taken on Antonio Margarito, by the way. And if he was whooping Margarito's ass until he blew out his bicep. I think his jabbing hand, and he just had his right hand. That was terrible, but it is what it is. And because he was gonna whoop Margarito's ass. I'm telling you, man. Margarito came back after that. But yeah, Joshua Clottey, really good fighter. But underrated. But Joshua Clottey, he lost that fight, and Cotto took on Pacquiao. Now it was at a catchweight 145. Catchweights are always never are good things, but nonetheless, at least for the guy who's coming down in weight, that's never a good thing for him. He has to sort of starve. But no excuses. Cotto took on Pacquiao, and Pacquiao, I mean, he dropped Cotto twice in that fight. Cotto, the referee had to call up a fight in the 11th round. Pacquiao put a beating on Cotto, man. Again, I don't think he would have stopped Cotto or even dropped Cotto if there was no catchweight. You know, like Oscar, but I think he would have still beaten Cotto because Cotto was getting caught with certain shots. Well, maybe I don't know. Full strong Cotto, I don't know, man. We saw Jab Judah landing a real flush. I mean, Cotto got him right, so maybe a full fledged powerful Cotto might have grinded Pacquiao down. We just don't know. I never saw Pacquiao against a full fledged, full blown strong Cotto, so can't say. But I can tell you this: we saw Floyd against a full blown strong Cotto, and he was a bad boy. Cotto was a bad boy. Even when Floyd buckled him in the 12th round, Cotto just kept on coming. He was just coming. He was just coming at Floyd. Floyd could not stop him. You can't stop Cotto. Nobody. I don't know. Nobody else stopped Cotto. The only person to stop Cotto was cheating ass Margarito and Manny Pacquiao because he was at a catchweight. He wasn't in full blown Cotto strength. But you full blown strong Cotto, ain't nobody stopping Cotto. Everybody knows that. But anyway, Cotto, which is another great fighter. That's another great fighter. Pacquiao took him on. Come on, man. Pacquiao took on. Look at the people Pacquiao taking on. After that, Pacquiao goes on to take on. uh, at the Cotto, he took on Joshua Clyde. So he didn't take on Floyd. He didn't take on Mosley. He didn't take on Marquez. Right? Them guys wanted to have a fight with Pacquiao, but he didn't. He took on Clyde. And Clyde, big strong guy. And he made Claudia keep his hands at home. Claudia wasn't trying to take no chance. I mean, he started sneaking in some shots later on in the fight, but by then, the fight was over. But Josh Claudia left that fight, clean face and stuff. I guess he didn't want to get bloodied and stuff. But Packett took him on. Josh Clyde. And Josh Clyde just come off, I think, beating Zab Judah or something like that. Something like that. He wasn't the IBF champion, though. Or maybe it was after. I don't know. But he became the IBF champion. Joshua Clyde, the welterweight. Beats Zab Judah. Then after that, he took on Antonio Margarito. He went up in weight. It was a catch weight, 150. So Antonio Margarito wasn't necessarily, he wasn't necessarily, he compromised a bit, right? He wasn't coming in full strength necessarily. But Antonio Margarito, anyway, it was a hell of a fight. He broke Antonio Margarito's eye orbital, messed him up, and he was beating the crap out of Antonio Margarito. You know what I mean? He never put him down. He never knocked him down or anything, but he beat the crap out of Tony Margarito. And that's a guy that was supposedly the boogeyman of the division. They accused Floyd of not facing Tony Margarito. Here's what it is. After he faced Antonio Margarito in 2011, he went on to face Timothy Bradley. Hell of a Hall of Famer. Listen to the names I'm talking to you guys about. Listen to the names I'm talking to you guys about. These are names. These are not nobodies. These are not like what Canelo doing, facing this back to back. We're talking here. This is not. I'll face I can't remember the dude's name. Who was a regular champion at a regular champion at 168. I forgot his name now. Whatever his name is, or Yildirim. This is not no Yildirim. This is not no uh, 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 whatever the guy's name is, right? So forgettable. These are names. These are name fighters. These are guys out there. So after he's faced Timothy Bradley, who got people think a controversial decision win over him, I thought Bradley beat him. Um, but look who it is. It's Timothy Bradley, ladies and gentlemen. He made a name for himself at the 140-pound division. Okay, he went through guys like Lamont Peterson, got a win over Lamont Peterson. He beat the brakes off of Junior Witter. Went across to the UK and beat Junior Witter. Okay, this dude faced guys like what's the guy's name? The dude with a tremendous left hook. I forgot what his name is. He was a world champion. We're doing a unification fight. He beat him. All right, Timothy Bradley, man. Come on, man. You know. So, okay, Timothy Bradley got a win over. But Pacquiao came back later on in his career and beat Bradley 2 more times, and each time more convincingly. Okay? That's to tell you how bad Pacquiao is. He's a bad boy. Went on to face Juan Manuel Marquez a 4th time. The final time, Marquez stopped him. But before Marquez stopped him, Manny Pacquiao dropped Marquez, and he was really coming at Marquez hard. Okay? It was a very competitive fight. So, yeah, okay. So he got knocked out by Marquez. But after that fight, he waited a whole year and come back. He faced a guy named Brandon Rios. Brandon Rios never impressed me, a name, but nonetheless, he faced Brandon Rios, who was once a world champion at lightweight, I think it was. That's coming off a loss too. So, but anyway, Pacquiao did that just to see if he was all together, and then he faced Timothy Bradley, and that's when he beat his ass. That was the second fight. And then after Timothy Bradley, he went on to face Chris Algieri, who was a 140-pounder, just won the WBO title against Provatnikov, who had almost wrecked him. And Algieri thought, he could knock out Manny Pacquiao because Marquez had done it. Timothy Bradley felt the same way, and they both got their ass beat. Okay, Pacquiao dropped Chris Algieri, I think it was 4 or 5 or 6 times. some shit like that. And then after that, he goes on to face Floyd Mayweather because it was very sensational performance. It was in Macau, China. I think they had the fight. And then he fought Floyd Mayweather in Las Vegas. Okay, so he lost to Floyd Mayweather, but he fought Floyd Mayweather. You hear what I'm saying? That's my point is he's fighting everybody. There's nobody he's not seeking to fight. Oh, by the way, he also fought Shane Mosley and whooped his ass all around the ring. But the point is he's fighting everybody. Okay, everybody who's a great fighter of the era, he's fighting them, and that's something that you guys got to understand. Undisputed and all that shit don't mean shit if you're not fighting the fighters. And he's fighting the fighters. He's not winning all the fights, but he's fighting all the fights. You got to give him his props for that. He After he lost to Floyd Mayweather, I think he went on to face Timothy Bradley, who would become the WBO winner because he beat Jesse Vargas. And that third fight, he dropped Timothy Bradley twice in that fight. It was competitive, but he dropped Timothy Bradley twice in that fight. And Timothy Bradley retired after that. All right. And that's a Hall of Famer right there, Timothy Bradley, right? Then goes on to face Jesse Vargas. He beats his ass. And Jesse Vargas is a very good fighter. And these are young fighters. Pacquiao's like late in his 30s. Goes on to beat Lucas Matisse and stop him. And then he goes on to take on Adrian the Problem Broner. Okay, Adrian Broner talking about how he's gonna whoop Pacquiao ass, blah 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 blah. But truth be told, Pacquiao beat him too. He beat him. Broner was talking all crazy and stupid, but Pacquiao beat him. And then after that, Pacquiao takes on Keith One Time Thurman. And I didn't think that Pacquiao was going to beat Thurman. I just didn't think so. And Pacquiao beat Thurman. Not only did he beat him, he dropped him in the first round. I was shocked. I think the whole world was shocked. He dropped him. And then after that, Manny Pacquiao, I was 40. He was 40 then. 2 years later, here is this Manny Pacquiao taking on Errol Spence. As if Thurman wasn't enough. Spence now. y'all. I mean, this is crazy. This is like Errol's so much more tougher a fighter than a Cotto or a Margarito or like he's picking the toughest guys. His resume is ridiculous. For the last since let's see, excluding Brandon Rios, Manny Pacquiao's resume is ridiculous. It's a ridiculous resume, especially at welterweight. He's been consistently facing tough fights, tough fighters. You know, his welterweight resume is ridiculous. And so, yeah, okay, maybe he gets to become undisputed. But what's more important than being undisputed is facing the guys. It's who you face, who you beat. You can be undisputed like Terrence Crawford was undisputed. But who did he really face? The guy who he really faced that was worth talking about was Victor Bristow. You know, that's his best win there. Thomas Delorme, not really. Um, Undongo, not really. Victor Bristow, that's the guy that you still get a lot of respect for. Had a lot of respect for. You know what I mean? So, but when you think of Pacquiao, he never been undisputed, but he's legendary. Why is he legendary? Because he really faced the very best of welterweight. You know, this is gonna be the second best fighter he's faced at welterweight. Errol Spence is number one welterweight. Floyd Mayweather was the number one welterweight. Okay, it's twice he done that. Okay, I think I'm trying to think when he faced Timothy Bradley. I think Bradley was the number one welterweight in a way too, because Floyd had retired. Bradley was the WBO champion. I think. Who else was that? It's 2014. I think Kel, uh, Kel. I think Kel Brook might have been the number one welterweight, but nonetheless, well, my point being that Manny Pacquiao, man, he's no joke. He's been facing the very best all the time, so you can't fault him. You know, it's like Floyd. They say, oh, he wasn't undisputed. and he had opportunities to be, but he didn't take it. Well, one, boxing politics. He should have been undisputed. He beat Carlos Baldomir, who beat Dab Judah. They should have been, but instead we just talk about lineal champion, right? The guy who beat the guy. But really, the lineal championship began at welterweight with Dab Judah, because he was undisputed, and then Baldomir beat Dab Judah, and then Floyd beat Baldomir. So they shouldn't be lineal. They should have been undisputed, but they're not undisputed. They're the guys that beat the guy, right? Floyd kind of discontinued it, and then he got Berto on him, but that's the point anyway. But my point anyway is this: that regardless, once you beat the guys, that's the important thing. To beat the guys of the division, that's more important than being undisputed. You know, because sometimes you're the undisputed champion, but of who? You're the best in the division, which is not very deep. What does that mean? Don't mean nothing. But if you're the best in the division and it's deep, and you're the top of that division, it's totally different. Especially if you face all the depth of the division, the heights of the depth of the division. It's a totally different story. So, Manny Pacquiao, man, is a bad boy. I spent 36 minutes on this video because I wanted to talk to you guys about him. I'm going to talk more about Manny Pacquiao soon. But the fact that he covered 12 divisions, pretty much 12 divisions, and was a champion in 8 of them, not the world champion necessarily, but a champion. He was linear champion in 2, and in 6, he was a world champion. In addition to being a linear champion in some of them, that's just incredible. And then he's a 5 divisional linear champion. Okay, that's also really great. So when you think about Manny Pacquiao, the special era from the '90s to now, um, he's remarkable. They nobody from his era, nobody, none of his contemporaries are boxing right now. He's the last of the Mohicans, let's say. So let's cherish him. Let's value him. Stop talking shit about him. Um, yes, we can talk about the reality of the situation, but sometimes it's nice to talk about the mythos of a fighter as well. And the career that Manny Pacquiao has been a remarkable career. You know, he's outlasted Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather had to leave the game. You know what I'm saying? Because of injuries and stuff. Pacquiao's still in the game, and that is remarkable. It's remarkable. So, what you need. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget you can share, subscribe, comment, and you can donate via Western Union or MoneyGram. Just message me, and I'll be able to holler back at y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all guys later. Peace.